Okay, so welcome to Bringing the Fae into Your Magic. There are two books referenced in the chat. If you are not live here with us, you're not going to see those. So I'm going to tell you what they are right now. We have The Modern Witchcraft Guide to Fairies, The Complete Guide to the Magic of the Fae by Skye Alexander. Skye Alexander is pretty well known for fairy information in the witchcraft world. This is a beautiful book. It has the uneven pages. I'm sorry, I have to give you my book porn description. So it feels like script along the edge, and it is filled with valuable information. Second one is going to be a little harder for you to get your hands on. This is the Witch's Guide to the Fairy Folk. This is by Adane McCoy, one of my favorite authors. And this book in particular has the 230 fairies that Adane McCoy classified and logged in her brief but prolific writing life. Beautiful book, beautifully illustrated. I can't tell you how much, if I had a portal to find her, I would want to find this woman. Like, her writings are phenomenal. They are expressive, and yet they are tangible. So what she writes, you can understand and attune it. So we all know that's just not possible with some authors in the witch community. Okay. So we started with this beautiful page. I chose this illustration for a reason, because when you work with the fairies, you are stepping through a portal. You are no longer in the astral realm, you exist. Okay. I know. Here we go. Sissy's about to go wicky wacky knuckle on you. Are you ready? Okay. So let's start with the Fae warning that exists in the witch world. Okay. You can't work with the Fae. They're dangerous. They're horrible. Don't let them in your home. They'll wreak hell and havoc. They are destructive, and there is nothing good about them. Bullshit. Total bullshit. Okay. Just like any other unknown X, Y, or Z in the world, the Fae reality is undeclared, unproven, and most definitely undocumented. There are very few documentations of Fae intervention, okay? Are there stories and lore and things along those lines? Absolutely. What you need to remember working with the Fae is they demand the same respect as a deity, an elemental, or an ancient being. You are dealing with a sanctioned individual who has both a shadow and a light to them. So when you're doing this, you need to remember they have a balance just like you have a balance. They have an energy just like you have an energy. And your energy may not jive with their energy. First day, first stack. So I'm going to start by saying I don't tell anyone to not work with the Fae. In fact, I encourage you to build a relationship with the Fae of your area and region, which is why this has to be a 2-part lecture. Okay. I'm going to be really honest with you. You can't properly work with the Fae till you learn your area, learn the liminal spaces to access them, and learn what you need for a working relationship with them. I have had my hut here in this spot for going on 2.5 years. I've been using my sacred space for 2 years. Doing this lecture, I learned a lot about my sacred space that I didn't realize. So just like you guys, when you read into things and I read about things I think I know, there's so much more that I don't know. Okay. So don't ever take that you've taken one class, you fucking know it all, you're done. No, keep reading, keep learning. Okay. So where do they exist and how do you find them? This is the first thing you need to understand. They exist in the liminal. They exist in the change. They exist in the spaces in between. So I gave examples to you of the seashores or water edges. What time are you going to find them? Between low and high tide, when the variant is coming in and out. You want a gray entity, you need to work in a gray elemental space. Edge of the woods leading to the field. So have you ever been out at twilight and you're walking from the edge of the woods out. You've been in the woods all day. You come out and you see this haze of twinkle above the wheat or the grain or the chaff. That's the Fae. They're this unlimited, untapped potential of energy. And you can almost feel it when you're walking through it. It makes you have goosebumps. It makes your hair stand on end. It's that little bit of lift in your step or that little bit of push through the water. You feel it. You can feel their emphasis and their energy in there. How are you going to feel it? You're going to open yourself up to that reality. Okay. So if you're a black and white person, you need everything in writing, you need everything organized, you need everything like this. I need to see it. I need to know it. You are never going to find the Fae. Do you know who finds the Fae? Children and people with childlike minds. So when my husband comes into my shed and I'm sitting in the middle of my floor in a pile of paper and ribbons and markers, and Caroline and I have painted little faces because, we have the rainbow sponges, and he comes in and he goes, "What the hell is wrong with her? You are her mother, not her 5-year-old friend. You are never going to find the Fae unless you're the 5-year-old. The Fae want nothing to do with your responsibilities and your limitations and your we have to do this and we have to do that. The Fae wants you to embrace this frolic, this frivolous, yet responsible nature responsibilities. You have to be in tune with the nature around you to work with the Fae. The Fae are not made of iron and steel. The Fae are made of water and air and fire and earth. So that leads you to, where are you most likely going to find them? Stone circles, crop designs, ruins of sacred spaces, caverns, and circles. So this brings you to a side note in the lecture, okay? So we're going to talk about this. Why have witches and the Fae been drawn together for years? Because witches open their minds to see things that are not visible to others. We create energy with our hands when we rub them together and you do the exercise where you pull apart. Do you know you're creating a Fae energy at that point? You're creating your own elemental workings. So if you've ever done the where you pull apart and feel your energy, you're creating a liminal Fae. You're creating your own little Fae. So imagine yourself making your own little you with like a dew cup top and a little paper muffin tin dress, and you're running around because that's what you're doing. You're putting your essence into that frame. And that frame is then able to move and fluctuate away from you. In Norse religion, they call this a fetch. So when I go deep and I meditate, I'm able to form a fetch. A fetch is a form of the Fae in Norse. My fetch is able to go work for me when I'm not able to be there. Okay? So, can you create Fae? Yes, you can. You can bring those energies in, you can call them to work for you. Secondly, can you offend the Fae? Yes, you can. Have a lot of horseshoes, railroad spikes, metal things around your sacred space, and you're never going to see the Fae. So when you're doing this, you really need to keep in mind that these circles and these elemental symbols that you're using in your working space, why we're going to fucking feral goddess, why I chose to cover Fae now. You need to learn how to use every element that is available to you for manifesting. If you need something to happen and you need the weather to cooperate, then you're going to have to ask for some elemental power in your process. So if you don't have that relationship with the elementals in your area, are you going to be able to make that happen? Probably not. Have you ever seen witches where they get together and you probably never seen it in real life, but when you see it in the movies and the wind comes up and the clouds lift away, that's a total alignment of that circle, those magicals, and those elements. They have allowed themselves to open into the liminal to work alongside the veil, the elements, their own energy, balancing. Think about it. When you are balanced and you are sitting there, you're a straight ass up conductor. You're a balanced grounding rod for energy. When you are grounded, you are a grounding rod. Just like where lightning comes and hits a house and it gets pushed off the home in through the grounding rod in the ground, you are becoming one with the area you work. And it's going to change how your practice works. So let's talk about where you find them. Okay. First of all, I think it is very important for you to know a heritage that you're choosing to work with. Okay. Because I can tell you in this book alone, there's 16 different heritages and names of Fae folk. Fae folk, little folk, cunning folk, magical ones, brownies, Copernicans, Clarkies, to the dawn, whatever you want to call them. Selkies, mermaids. These are all Fae. They are all spawned of Fae. Anything you would see, that is a Fae element. If it is a spirit off of nature, it is a Fae. Now, just like you have good Fae, you have bad Fae. Banshees, bad Fae. Reaper brownies, bad Fae. Long time Slavic belief that small entities would come and pull the bodies of the miners that were left, the Tommy knockers. Every area of the world has their own belief system. The Asian belief system on Fae folk could take me a year to teach. Theirs is so extensive and complete. I mean, we go into fucking dragons, winged wolves, winged dragons, winged horses that live underwater that are dragons. There is an entity for everything in that area of the world. Celtic is the second largest. Then we move into South America and the Native American tribal beliefs. Everybody wants to join them together, but they're so different. So you can come in and have all those things. I encourage you all to look, find your heritage. When I do the second part, write your heritage out so you can get the appropriate pack of fairies to go with what you're doing. Okay? So you need to make a relationship with these entities. That means you need to find out what they want, what they do, what they need, what they use. Okay? Not every Fae takes the same thing. There are certain Fae you don't want in your home and certain Fae you do want in your home. I know for a fact quite a few women in this group have brownies in their home and they maintain a relationship with them. Helpful Fae. Until they're not pleased, then they're a little more spiteful. But as far as a brownie goes, it's probably one of the most productive house spirits you can have. There's a book out by, I want to say it's the same lady we're reading, The Green Witch. Everything's like running in a circle, called The House Witch. And there's an entire section in that book on house spirits. Give that a read because that will be very helpful for you to know what will be helpful in your home. Okay. So you're going to make offering cakes, leave out milk, some like straw, some like string, whatever you need to do to create the bond and begin a relationship. I do not suggest you say, hey, you, this is what I want. Here is an offering. Because just like a spiteful little child, you're going to get the same response from the Fae. Keep in mind, they are a sanctioned, sanctified being. And they have their own will to work with you or not work with you. And if you think they're not watching you, they're watching you. They see your altar, they see your outdoor space, they see the plants you keep, they know what kind of witch you are. So I didn't put this in the PDF, but let's cover this. Why have witches been associated with the Fae? Because witches go where the Fae go. They go to the stone circles. They worship the old gods. They see nature and earth as its own sanctioned entity. We don't look for a deity for our answers. We look to the sky. Fae are the same way. So when witches were burned in the burning times, many of them, instead of saying they consorted with the devil, said they consorted with the Fae. They would tell them, the spirits told me, the little people told me, the cunning folks showed me. And there has been documented information of these women going to wells, these women bringing in abundant hauls from their crops, from offerings. There has been stories of people who have survived by leaving a plate of saucer and a piece of bread out in hard, hard times for a house spirit. So if you think that the Fae are not associated with witches, you're wrong. We have had a centuries old relationship of working with the cunning folk, especially if you have a Celtic belief system, a Middle European belief system. Native American cunning folk are way different than European cunning folk. So if you have that ancestry, you're going to want to learn that information separately. Okay? So, how do you see them? Faith, trust, and pixie dust. No, that's not how it works. That's how you fly, motherfucker. No. Faith, trust, and a desire is the must. You need to decide this is something you want to do. So everybody who's always told you, you watch those witch lectures and they're totally off their rockers, this is the one. This is the one that you've been waiting for. Here it comes. It's the off your rocker banger. This is the one. You're going to get a little out of your comfort zone. You're going to expand yourself a little bit. You know that time where you're so tired that you don't think you're seeing things right? You think you saw something move out the side of your eye and you're not quite sure what it was, or you're sitting there at 2:30 in the morning and you're pounding away at your computer because you're working and something runs in front of you. That's it. That's the time. That's when you're going to see them. You're going to see them when you're moving past your liminal vision, past your focused vision to your panoramic vision, when you become fully aware of all the energies around you. So when you drift, so you're meditating, you're outside, you're in a trance-like state, this is when you're going to have those encounters. It will greatly increase if you use a traveling herb. So this is not where I'm going to tell you pot, okay? Because pot has no indication. Cannabis is not one of the chemicals ever listed in entering the realm. Maybe it was because it was too new and not something that was easily accessed, or maybe because witches really didn't rely on that because they had better sources. Okay. So you're going to open your awareness to the veil. So henceforth, Beltane, Samhain, these are easier times to commune with the Fae. And the stone circles that you see, that's what they were used for. The Druids met with the elementals at those times. That is when they gave their offerings. That's when they moved into the liminal. That's when they did their work. So when you're doing these things, that's how you focus, okay? That's why children, elderly, and people that are not completely there will see the Fae more often. Special needs children, are able to see these things way quicker than kids are totally focused. People who don't look at life the way everyone else does, they will see the Fae quicker. Autistic children, special needs children, mentally handicapped children who are just a little slower. They're going to see things differently than you do. And it is much easier for them to see, hence the saying, through the eyes of a child. So when you're thinking of this and you're looking at using plants to open yourself up to the veil, I'm going to give you the disclaimer. Here comes the pharmacy disclaimer. You ready? You are a human being. Your body will react to toxins. Do not fucking ingest toxins because you think you're superhuman. It will not work. You will die. Okay? We all understand this? Don't go drinking belladonna or slugging down fucking piles of fucking myrrh and things like that. You're going to get sick. You're going to get very sick. Now, you might hallucinate for a little bit, but you're going to get really fucking sick. Probably need to go get your stomach pumped. So when you're doing these teas that I have recommended here, small amounts. We're not talking about piles. If you ingest too much mugwort, you're going to get physically ill. You're going to vomit. It's going to make you sick. Okay? So everything that is a little bit of medicine is a whole lot of poison when you double it. You know, it's not like that saying, if a little bit is good, a whole lot is better. No, that is not the saying. Okay? You can get real fucked up, real bad, and real sick. Okay? And liminal sickness is definitely a possibility. If you sit in the liminal too long and you are not mentally prepared for it, you are not balanced, you are not okay psychic, socially, meaning you're having a hard time in the ordinary realm, liminal travel may not be for you right now. So let's make sure you're mentally healthy before we call into the liminal, because the liminal is going to show you things about yourself you might not be real ready for. Okay? Because keep in mind, lots of things live in the liminal, just not the Fae. All right? So entering the local veil to you is going to require herbs that are local to you. So we're not going to use Dittany of Crete if I live in Pennsylvania. Okay? That's not how I'm going to cross that liminal space. If I know I'm going into the liminal right here where I live, I have lilacs, I have forsythias, I have primrose. I'm going to use those herbs to enter that veil because I want the Fae to recognize me in this area. Okay? So sacred herbs are sacred herbs no matter where you look at them. They are herbs that witches have turned to for centuries for liminal passage, healing, and grounding. So every one of these herbs has a three-purpose rule, okay? You can liminal pass, you can heal, or you can ground, okay? So the first one is for garden site. If you have a garden and you want to work with your garden fairies, valerian, peppermint, echinacea, catnip, and eucalyptus. If you are prone to seizures, please do not use eucalyptus. Okay, eucalyptus is dangerous for people with epilepsy. Disclaimer. All right. I know this because I'm an epileptic child and we have no eucalyptus in the hacienda. None. In fact, when somebody buys me a bath salt with eucalyptus, it goes right outside. It does not even come in this house. We don't risk that. It's not worth it. Next is a veil passage. When I say a veil passage, I mean Beltane Samhain. Veil passage. Valerian, golden seed, willow. When I say willow, I mean the shreds of the bark. Okay? So when you go into a metaphysical store, you're going to see them. They have them a whole rack. Good metaphysical stores will have these shreds of trees. Okay? If you live in a property that has a willow tree, you can use the tender shoots of the willow tree. So those spindles that are coming down right now, you may want to get a couple of them, suspend them in vodka or a little bit of witch hazel and keep them till you're ready to pull them out, dry them, and shave them down for a veil. I always store probably those big asparagus jars. You get the glass ones. I cut off a whole bunch of willow when the neighbor's tree has his thunderstorm episode, and I go gather up all the fallen. I cut them down and I put them in that jar and I save them for when I need them. Damiana is something that you're probably going to have to access. Not everybody has Damiana. It's a harder to grow herb, and you usually have to get it from a witch store. Mugwort grows along the side of the road where I live. So that shit grows everywhere. That's like leaf lettuce. You can get that shit anywhere. So there's mugwort everywhere here. Next one is forestscaping. So forestscaping is when you are trying to access the hedge in the forest. So every forest has a soft hedge and then it has a hard hedge. The hard hedge is the thorny, protected area. That's where fairies dwell. They dwell in those protected, thorny areas, which makes it safer for them to exist. Okay, excuse me. Less things can get to them there. Because just like you have enemies, they have enemies. They have enemies in their liminal space. You know, those trolls. If you believe in fairies, you have to believe in trolls. Okay, and trolls eat fairies. This is I'm telling you that we're going down the hole. We are in the rabbit hole this lecture, okay? So just calm down. We're talking about bridge trolls, fairies, banshees. We're there. So hawthorn berries, which are poisonous, small portion. Okay, you don't want to go a whole bunch of hawthorn berries. Witch hazel bark, white oak bark, ginger, and spearmint. Very small increments. Remember, you are removing yourself from this reality into this reality. There's going to be a little bit of toxicity in what you're drinking. Okay. And finally, the liminal walker is when you wish to have conversation with the Fae as a working relationship. So this is after you know them for a while, you know where to find them. You're going to hunker in, buy your sacred circle, create this time, and create this brew to sit with them, sip gently, and move through. This is valerian, mint stems, rose petals, damiana, and mugwort. So you're just going to be mellow. You're going to be a mellow fellow. Be like, hey, how you doing? What you doing? How you want to do this? You're going to have a very Dorothy and Oz experience, okay? When she popped out the house and you see the fucking Technicolor world after you've been in black and white for a while. You're going to see shit, Alice. You're going to see lots of shit. I can best explain working with the Fae as the meme where Dorothy and Alice are sitting on a stoop together. And Dorothy looks over and she goes, I've seen some shit, Alice. And Alice goes, I've seen some shit too, Dorothy. So these are the realms you're going to be moving in. Lewis Carroll did a lot of opium. Frank L. Baum did a lot of cocaine. Okay. These were people that were clearly in the liminal. All the best people are mad, right? They've seen shit. They know shit. All right. So when you're creating a Fae friendly space, say you've decided you want to work with the Fae. I listened to a lecture some years ago with the woman who wrote the 12 Sacred Herbs of Samhain. And she spoke how she fasted for 7 days. And she sat in the middle of the forest on the floor in a wigwam with a medicine woman from a Native American tribe. And she journey quest till she met the Fae. And she wrote a phenomenal essay after it and spoke of how they told her of how things need to be for them to exist alongside of you and the things of those nature. I don't suggest any of you starve yourself for 7 days. Go to a wigwam and meet with a shaman. But if you do that, let me know. I'm fucking coming with. Because I think that would be good for us. Maybe some ayahuasca too. Who fucking knows? If we're going to do this, let's just dive fucking head first. Okay. We're just going to go all the way in. If I'm going to hallucinate, I'm going to fucking do it right. So we're going all the way down the fucking hole. Okay. So what she did cover in there was speaking about creating a space for the Fae. So lilacs, pussy willows, floral borders of primrose, foxglove, and mistletoe are highly recommended in the Druid practice of Fae. Okay? These are the plants they recommend. I can't plant that stuff, Sissy. I live in the middle of the desert and it won't fucking grow. Okay, so listen. I know that was coming. Okay. Or Leslie, I live in Florida, bitch. That shit don't grow here. Okay. So this is what I'm going to tell you. Get your dried pussy willows. Get your dried foxglove. Create a blend and make a circle around you when you're looking to work with them. Anybody who knows me knows there is always an upside down besom of pussy willows in my house. Always. Spring comes, I buy a new set, I tie them up with a ribbon, and I hang them on the wall. I always have pussy willows in my house. I always have lilacs in my house. I have a jar with sugar and lilacs for my tea. I do it in spring and it lasts me all year long. So these are things that I've, like I said, doing this lecture, I've learned that maybe I have had Fae influence through a lot of my work because these are things I'm pulled to do. Spring comes, I want the lilacs. I sneeze like a motherfucker, but I gather those lilacs. I do these things all through the year. Mistletoe, I'm deathly allergic to mistletoe. It's always hung in my house every year. I don't touch it. I have someone else do it, but I'm deathly allergic to it. It makes me super sick. Okay. So when you're doing these things, you're gathering them. You don't have to grow them, but have them at your access if you're going to use them, even to make a small circle around yourself outside in the grass. Less is more. Okay, guys, you don't have to have piles of stuff laying around you. A thin line is sufficient. Then comes the person who goes, I don't have a yard. What do you want me to do? Okay. Get a small hula hoop from the dollar store. Cut it in half. Empty it out. Put your stuff inside of it. Decorate it beautiful with ribbons and fucking fabric. Take it with you to the park and sit your fat ass in the center of the fucking hula hoop, you complainer. Okay? Where there is a witch, there is a fucking way. All right? I don't want to hear anymore. You don't have time for this bullshit because witchcraft is all fucking bullshit. Stop giving me this bullshit. Okay? If you want to be a witch, you better get the grasp you have on everything being reality and chuck that shit out the window. We are fucking mentally unstable people. We see spirits. We believe we have the power to hold the elements. We have our soul as a fucking governing entity. We light candles and we call fucking dead things from thousands of years ago. What the fuck is wrong with you people? I don't know where you think you're sane. Sane left 100 fucking years ago for us. We're fucking crazy bastards. And you're all sitting around going, but that makes no sense. Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. I don't have time for this nonsense. I'm crazy and I only want to roll with fucking crazy people like me. Okay? So if you are like sitting here going, this is just not possible. This is just not possible. I am not the witch for you. Thanks for coming. Bye. So this is the way it works, okay? So there was a reason I put these dandelions on the side of here. One of the most powerful forms of bringing a fae is wish magic. Why do you think children find fae faster than anyone? How many times do you see children say, I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish? Wishing wells came from the leprechauns, the tiny folk. You would throw your money down the well and they would come get it and they would grant your wish because they were so fucking greedy. They were so fucking greedy that they would give you what you wanted so they could have your money. They were the original bankers. Ha ha! Give me your money and I'll give you your wish. What people tended to find out that the wishes that the little people gave were not the wishes they wanted. Because not only were they greedy, but they were sly as fuck. So they took you exactly as you said it and didn't give you what you exactly wanted. So be careful when you make deals with the little folk. They'll come back and take it the way they want it. Okay? They're just like little kids. They're fucking sneaky. Okay? So trees in our northern hemisphere, ash, oak, hawthorn, sugar maple, and poplar. So have you ever been out on a spring night when the leaves are starting to fill and it's dusk and you see little twinkles in the trees? It's not firefly season. You have a small fire going and you will see twinkles in the trees. This is a Dane Coy's explanation for it. For they've woken and they feel your magic and they have responded to your call. So I never really heard that saying before I read her book thoroughly for the third time this weekend. And when I saw it, it was crazy because I've always wanted my hut where it sits. And my hut sits beneath a huge sugar maple. Huge. It's huge. And I always told my husband, my hut has to sit here. This is where it belongs. This is its home. If you've ever been to my home, you'll know my hut is not at a convenient place to be sat. It is in the back part of my property, around my huge garden, through my orchard. It was a bitch to get my hut here. And my husband comes out the other day and he goes, boy, this looks like it's always been here. Because the fairies fucking told me to put it here. Because my circle's always been here. My hut has not. So you will know when you have made your bond with them. They will tell you. I have things drop all the time from the tree for me. Christmas balls, ribbon, string. The crows hang in the tree and they sit on the top of my shed. The crows work closely with the little people. Keep that in mind. So when you're thinking about them, be very considerate of where you're building. Open your mind a little bit to see the things you're seeing, where you're putting your gardens. A border of mint or mugwort's always conducive to bringing fairies. And a rose bush guarantees they will reside because they have a safe place to hide from predators. They need those thorns. Now comes the hard part. I have to tell you how to be afraid of them. Be very, very afraid of them. They are sneaky as fuck. Okay? Literally, they're sneaky as fuck. Iron is the sure-clad way to keep them from your home, your gardens, and your person. So when they buried a body in Celtic belief, they put an iron nail in the right pocket to keep the Fae from stealing the body. When it's funny because we had a lecture a couple months ago about railroad spikes. Somebody kept asking about railroad spikes. They're to protect your home from evil entities, period. But when you drive one in the ground, be prepared to remove everything from your home. Not just the things you think, but everything. The Fae folk are extremely, extremely sensitive to iron. So if you're somebody who has the horseshoe above your home and the iron nails everywhere, you're not going to get any friendly Fae or any frolicking Fae. Every Fae will stay away from your home. And some of us like having them in our home. We like that energy. We like that, for lack of a better word, the mitzvah, the celebration of having that relationship with them. So when you're protecting your home, you can do spells. Brooms work fantastic. A broom above your door will sweep the negative energy away, won't allow something in your home that brings negativity. There's a small pocket protection you can do for the Fae with thorns and iron and a few other herbs that you can do. But keep in mind, you need to make the relationship before you set boundaries. If you immediately set boundaries to keep them all away, you'll never be able to make a relationship with any of them. So keep that in mind, okay? I'm going to have you guys a couple ways of doing things. I'm going to send out after with the replay because I wanted to look into two of them before I sent them out. I actually have a question in for another practitioner because I wasn't quite sure what I saw was right. So I wanted to ask her before I passed it on. So what did old wives' tales and old lore tell you you could do to keep the fairies away? Well, the one thing that everybody was afraid of was the fairies taking your baby and exchanging it with a changeling. So if you had a baby that was failure to thrive, just had a tiny baby that wouldn't grow, wouldn't put weight on, everyone would be like, oh, oh, it's a changeling. They took your baby and it's a fairy, because the fairy would live in the body till the body gave out. And then the fairy would be free, is what the wives' tales said. Unfortunately, many babies in that time frame had failure to thrive and died. So there was a lot of fae blamed for stealing a lot of babies. They didn't. So they would hang garlic and rue above the cradles. They would lay rosemary in the bedding, cover the bedding completely in rosemary underneath, around the cradle. They would do all these things to keep the fae from getting near the baby. A big thing was they would carry the baby in by one leg through the threshold with the rosemary when they brought the baby in from wherever the baby was, when they went out to baptize them and bring them back in. So the fae would never come and take the baby. Okay. Bundlings of twigs were hung all over homes. So the perfect triad throughout Europe and North America was, hawthorn, ash, and oak. They would be tied in the colors of the triple goddess, the red, the black, and the silver, and hung above the doorways so that the triple goddess would protect the home from the fae. Because there was a belief that the triple goddess would not let the fae enter. Now, this is a contradictory fact because the Morrigan is well known as working with the fae. So why would she keep the fae from entering where she dwelled? So that's a contradictory fact in fae lore. It's not the first one you're going to find, and it's not the last one you're going to find. If you wanted to have fertility or longevity in your marriage bed, you would gather white flowers and ask the Fae Queen to bless your marriage bed on Beltane. So the flowers would be taken to the fire, they would be prayed over, and they would be brought to the marriage bed before the new couple consummated their marriage. And if the Fae Queen approved of the couple, they would have a baby within the tide being the next 9 months. And everybody knows, how do you get rid of fairies? You ring a bell. The bell is the clearing energy. It scatters them and removes them from the area. Now, I did give you some fairies here, okay? I tried to stay into things that were easily known when I gave you what you can use them for. We're going to go a little deeper into that in the next lecture. But I did want to give you some of these that you could start looking into if you want to work with them. So prosperity spells are brownies, gnomes, and leprechauns. Brownies are in your home. Okay. So go ahead and start researching brownies. This is a really common house spirit that many of us have. Some of you say, oh, things just move in my house. It's the fae. Of course it is. It's a brownie. Fae don't steal everything. Brownies do. They're fucking pack rats. There's probably a place in your house where everything is stuck that one day you'll just open it and you'll be like, how the fuck did all this shit get here? I think it's under my fucking chair in the living room. So every time I move that chair, shit just fucking piles out of it like an avalanche. And I'm like, Caroline, how did this get? I didn't touch that. How does all that shit get in that place? I'm sure you have one place in your house where you're like, where did all this shit come from? You probably have a brownie. Fertility spells. Benentah is basically the fairy queen's handmaiden, okay? Gnomes and Grukach. Grukach are a little darker than brownies. So we'll cover that. Protection of your home, a brownie, a domover, a kobold, a penance, a tomtra, a tom-tom. You see them mentioned at Yule. They're the spirits that care for farms and land, and you feed them and take care of them, and they maintain your area. Divination. Divination fairies and fae are all from the forest. All of them. The magic of divination lives in the trees because the trees are ancient and old and they're rooted to the old magic. They grow deep and they grow resilient. The dryads live in the trees. So you see a lot of tarot readers, they wear the veil. They wear the veil so they can come underneath and nest in their hair while they're doing this. Old Romney magic shows that, okay? So let's open to questions because I know you're all sitting here going, holy shit, bitch, that was a lot. You're all just sitting there like, was it too much? Not enough? Melissa.
Hi. Yeah, so I have a question. My apartment used to be a colonial warehouse, and it has a bunch of iron nails in the bricks, and I'm not allowed to touch them or take them away. Does that mean I can't work with the fairies in here at all?
You're probably going to have to work with the fairies outside of your home.
Okay.
That property is well guarded.
Yeah.
I'd be interested what colonial merchant owned that factory.
Uh-huh.
I bet there was an Irish, I bet it was an Irish shop owner.
Mm-hmm.
Because Irish Catholics do not do Fae.
Uh-huh.
They do not like them nor care for them. So
Yeah.
I would do a little research and find who worked in your area, but I would definitely go to the park or a more rural area for you to examine that.
I do know that one of the warehouses on this block, I found out it might have been the one I live in, is where Woolworth first found the glass Christmas balls and stuff and started selling them around for the trees and things. And it might have been this building.
Yeah, I know a lot of shop owners did put iron nails through their boards and things like that to protect.
Yeah, because I'm not allowed to do anything to the bricks, but everything I have hanging up is because there are nails in the bricks already, very old, like iron nails.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Jenna?
I find it might be helpful for Melissa. I keep horseshoes and railroad spikes in my house near my doors and windows to keep fairies out because they don't seem to bother the brownie in my house. They just keep fairies out. And I don't want fairies in my house. I have a garden that I've made for them. So like, this is your space, you stay outside. Because when they're in here, I've only had them come in the house a few times and you notice because that's like when you'll misplace something or like you'll put something down and you'll leave the room and come back and it's not there and you'll tear your whole house apart and you come back and it's right where it was the whole time. That's when I know that they're in here and I need to get them out. But I haven't found that that brownies are bothered by iron for me, so it kind of keeps the bad out and the good in. With the brownies, I found that the best way is when you're doing your offerings to not. I've read that you're not supposed to do them intentionally. You're supposed to kind of just leave things out, just kind of like, whoops, I accidentally left out some milk or some honey, but you're not supposed to put it out and be like, hey, this is for you, and announce it. So it's good to just kind of keep things out as if you forgot to put it away, and then they kind of take it on their own and then just go back to their little
I think what I
spot.
noticed is you're almost supposed to treat them like your home, like they're part of your family, not like they're an additional nuisance.
Right. They're like a family member that like my teenagers, they kind of stay locked in their rooms and you don't really see them, but they live here. So, and I do the same things for them. I leave food out for them and they'll, crawl out and get it and then go back to their room. So you just kind of treat the brownies the same way as a teenager that locks themselves away. It's really important. I was talking to Sissy the other day. It's really important that you have a space for either your fairies or your brownie, somewhere for them to go. I found that especially if you're keeping fairies out of your house, like ones that will cause havoc, if you have spaces for them, like I saw a lot of people that are starting to post pictures about fairy gardens. Make sure you have somewhere for them to stay so they don't start coming into your house and fucking around with stuff.
Well, and people are putting these fairy gardens in their children's rooms. Don't do that.
Oh yeah, don't do that. Because
Don't
not only
put
that, but
those
like
in your
kids'
kids' rooms.
yeah, and they're gonna scare your kids too because they think it's funny.
Well, and the other thing is, you have St. Patrick's Day where they trap the leprechauns, where they teach these children to trap the leprechauns. And my daughter actually lost a recess. She goes, "We don't fuck with the Fae. You don't mess with them." That was Caroline's response to the teacher. She's like, "Did you build a leprechaun trap?" Caroline's like, "We don't fuck with the Fae." Nope, we don't do that. So you make your children aware that it's disrespectful. And I totally agree with Jenna. I mean, our brownie in our house is like crazy. So he might not be a brownie. He might be a boggart. I might have a boggart.
Yeah, I've never really had the brownie like misplaced shit. That's usually
No,
like
I think I
when I
have a
know the
boggart because he
fairies.
has a bad attitude. He's
Yeah.
an asshole. Like he will throw things around and I will see him run. I know I do have a brownie because he's very peaceful, but he's on the lower level of the house. But it's probably a boggart in my upstairs because he's a dick.
I found like when I lose shit that's fairies, but then you'll know you have a brownie in your house. Like if you've ever had one of those moments where, let's say years ago you lost something or misplaced it, but it wasn't anything important, so you didn't remember it or notice that you lost it. And then out of nowhere, in a very obvious place, you'll find it, you'll be like, oh my God, I totally forgot I had this thing, like this crystal or this knickknack or something, and you hadn't seen it in years. I think that's brownies. They're like helpful, but not in like really obvious ways. Um, Also, uh, I've read that like cats will chase away your brownies sometimes. So that's another thing. I have two cats, but sometimes I think in the middle of the night, like if your cats like are going ape shit around the house, I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, mine run through the house like lunatics, and I think that's why we might have a boggart. Because it's like we call it the Kentucky Derby at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
They're just
right.
rum, rum, rum. And my husband's
And
like,
I mean that's right near like the witching hours, so it makes sense.
I'm like, what the hell is going on out there? And he goes, what are those cats chasing? I'm like, probably the fucking house spirit. And he goes, oh, okay, whatever. He's like, it's probably a mouse, because my husband. But yeah, I mean, I think what Jenna's saying to you guys is totally beneficial. You need to have spaces for the Fae. You need to prepare yourself to know the Fae you want to work with. That's the other thing. So many people go in saying, "Oh, I just want any Fae to come along." No, no, you don't. No, no, no. That's not what you're looking for. And before you go soliciting the Queen of the Fae for things, think twice. Because just like any other queen, she demands respect. And you better know what you're doing when you deal with her. So it's not something to go into willy nilly, but it is something to examine and move into gradually. You guys don't have any other questions? Everybody's like, Amanda?
So when you say that we should make a place for the Fae, is a fairy garden that place? Like if we did have one in our garden?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I have an
Okay, thank
area of my herbs that I put ribbons and offerings and shiny things for them. I also have like little Caroline builds little houses and she puts all those out there. We very much do that kind of stuff.
Okay, awesome.
Heather?
Yeah, I need to do some clearing on my property, like some brush with some thorns and some small trees. Would that offend the Fae?
I might leave an offering if I'm going to move it.
Okay, so should I start a connection before I do any clearing?
I go out and tell them you're going to clear the space and let them know what your plans are and just create an open dialogue with them and maybe leave an offering.
Okay.
I mean, I always hang ribbons in the trees surrounding where I'm going to work. If I'm going to do something on my property, my husband calls it I decorate to let them know I'm coming. So like I'll hang some strings and some crystals. Like Jenna said, crystals are huge in the Fae community. Shiny. They love shiny shit. And they'll bring you shiny shit that you don't even think is valuable. It'll just show up. So it's all about a mutual respect. You have to have a mutual respect for what you're working with.
Right.
They are entities. They're not just some stupid fairy tale item that you're working with. If you intentionally work with them, you need to have respect for them. And they
So
are very helpful in spell work if you learn how to work with them.
I need to learn my area before
Yes.
I leave offerings. and then, okay, I got it. All
No
right, thank you.
problem. Melissa?
Okay. So can we give them bells?
I'm sorry, what did you say again?
Can we give them bells? Like I have a bunch of those little jingle bells from Christmas, and I thought about tying them in the rose bush.
I don't hang bells because I think it drives them away.
Okay.
But I know a lot of people who do. So if you have that relationship, maybe you can lay them out and say, is this something that works for you? Let me know. You know, I don't hang bells because I've always been told it drives them away. It clears them from the area. But there are other practitioners who work with them and hang them in their trees. I hang wind chimes. I don't hang bells.
Okay. Because I
I'm
saw something somewhere about wind chimes, and I'm like, well, if you hang the bells, maybe it'll make the same noise, but maybe
I do wind chimes for mine.
I've got wind chimes too.
Yeah, I do a lot of wind chimes around my property. I love how they sound, but I don't use bells. My husband is a big fan of the tube ones that have the different noise. So, and we have foundling wind chimes, which are bent spoons and seashells and that kind of thing. Because Caroline, I think, is part tinker, so we make shit out of junk. So yeah, that's what we do here. Caroline
thank
thinks
you.
you get a whole pile of junk and then you make something. That's how we do it. Jen?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out that I did a class with Laura O'Brien. She runs the Irish Pagan School. And one of the things that she said that really connects with what you were saying today is that she has been a high priestess of the Morrigan for years. And she did a whole workshop on how the Morgan, even the stories and the fairy tales and the folklore are so vastly different depending on where of Ireland it was told, what the Celtic version versus the Irish Catholic version versus the pagan version. So adding to that, when we do choose to pick a heritage of a Fae folk, when Laura O'Brien was talking about it, she mentioned that if you take one of her like free classes, she'll give you access to where you can go into the codex, and then in the codex it will give you all the primary sources of where that information came from, and then she'll give secondary sources of where the obviously they read the primary and now they're giving their viewpoint. But I think the funny part was that she said the Morgan is just as controversial as the Bible. There's so many stories. Which one do you believe? And I thought that crap was kind of funny. But because I know I've been feeling the Morgan a lot, and I know you said that was kind of a ooh, that's a danger zone. So I'm walking slowly. But the crow also has been showing up, and we have activity here. But that Lauren O'Brien class is free, and if you want to learn more about what that is about, it can also help anybody that wants to know.
Lauren O'Brien is a great educator, and she only has a limited number of free classes. So keep that in mind when you
Exactly.
work with Lauren O'Brien. You're going to run
Right.
into hundreds of thousands of dollars to pursue your education with the
And
Morrigan.
she's not getting a red cent, but I'm doing all the free classes.
No, you know what? I will be very honest with you. I will straight up be honest with you. If I was going to put my money into an educator, it would be
would
Lauren
be her.
O'Brien or Cindy Brennan. Because if you want to learn this is what
Right.
people need to understand in the witch community. Free classes aren't going to teach you the shit you need.
Right.
It's not, because free classes don't buy books and classes for educators. And educators need to be educated when they're educating you. I love when people say, oh, Sage Goddess, oh, Sage Goddess. Does Sage Goddess have a geology degree? Because she does not.
No, she does not.
Okay.
And she comes to Tucson. She comes here to get her stuff over at Quartzsite.
It's realistic. These people who are educating you are educated. You really want to learn about Fae? Take a British Museum class. You really want to learn about Fae? Take a Harvard University mythology class. You really want to learn about things? Go in. The colleges have classes you can take for free without getting credit. So you can audit a class and learn everything you want to know. I love educators. I love when they give the free bits. I hate when they give just a little bit free to pull you in to
Yeah.
a $700 class. I'd rather be told I'm taking a $700 class.
Yeah.
Like
me
I'm
too.
taking an herbalism class right now from Chestnut Hill Herbs. There was no freebie here. It was you buy or you don't get the class. And there's this respect level I have with Lauren O'Brien that Laura, she has the YouTube channel where she educates strategically. She strategically educates on the Morgan. But what I have a problem with is who the hell are you to say you're a priestess?
That's true.
I'm sorry. The Morgan is not coming down, touching you, and making you a priestess. That is an established title that people are giving themselves. There are no more priestesses, people.
Good
Those
point.
temples don't exist anymore.
Right.
That's not a part of history we dwell in. So when people are telling you they're priestesses, high priestesses, this, they're self-appointing themselves this, or they're in an organization that's appointing them that. Do you want me to come
Okay.
into the Lunar Hearth Coven? I am the high priestess of the fuck you coven. How fucking stupid would you look at me? You'd be like, what is wrong with this bitch? Like, can we just be realistic for a moment?
Yeah.
Self-appointed titles mean shit.
That's true.
Learn something.
Right.
And I love what she does. I think she's a great educator. I think she knows buku bullshit. She is fucking educated. But the priestess thing just,
Yeah. Rubs you the wrong way.
it's like the cat. You know,
Yeah.
it's like that vomit reaction I have. I love Cindy Brennan, but I hate the hierarchy bullshit that goes with all these education systems. Can't we all just get together and learn about a goddess and not be a bunch of asshats? I would love that for us.
Yep.
I fucking hate that people call me the head witch in charge. I hate that. I'm like, I'm just a fucking idiot who's stupid enough to run this bullshit. That's
Find
all I
people who
am.
follow you.
Okay, you know, it's like I'm an asshole and these are the people who support me being an asshole. It's kind of how it rolls, okay? So when
hear
you're
ya.
doing these educational things, look for the old books. Look for the information. Dig. Go to your library. You want to learn about things? Go to the library. Smell the dusty pages. That's how you're going to learn. Because our religion is not kept on a CD-ROM somewhere.
Nope.
It is in old books. And most of all, it's in your heart. If you can feel it and you know it, you are living it. I
Name
mean,
it.
I love educators. I really do. I love that people take time and they educate themselves solely, but the titles just really get me after a while. You know, and I'm sitting over here like a hypocrite because I took my name Vulva of the Circle through my personal work. But I'm not here teaching you guys as the Vulva of the Circle. There's
Mm.
no class you take with me that it says lecture given by Vulva of the Circle. Lecture given by head asshole of Lunar Hearth Cauldron, okay? So any of my assistants will tell you that work with me. I call them sometimes, I'm like, I don't know what to fucking do. What do you think we should do? I'm just like you guys. And you need to keep in mind these people that are educating you are just like you too, and they are fallible as well. Be careful how high of a pedestal you put people on. Not because I don't think they're worthy, because we're all human. And I love that she admits that the Morgan is a contradictory source all in one, because she really is. So is Hecate. So is Lilith. So is any goddess, because different people have different stories of them. Just like the Fae, different people have different stories of the Fae. It's how it works. So when you're doing these things, that's what you need to remember. So here's what I want to know from you guys. We can go in two different directions with this, okay? The next class is going to be $15, okay? So here's my plan. I'm going to give you guys $8 off, so you would pay $7 just like this lecture because you all paid for it, okay? Next people that come in, they're going to have to buy the first one and they're going to have to buy the second one. Oh, fuck them. Too bad. So sad, okay? So you guys will get the $8 coupon off for the $15 lecture, okay? It's probably going to be towards the end of summer in August because I'm going to have to take a lot of time and get this information together. This one's going to go over types, spell work, and finally in-depth blends of potions and things you guys can use, sprays and that kind of stuff, correct? So does anybody want anything else covered in that lecture that I can research into till I give that one? Everybody's like, holy shit, is she asking us what we want her to teach us? Because I want to make sure when I'm teaching a class, you're getting what you want. Because I'm not going to waste time. These books are extensive and there's tons of shit I can cover in a book, but I want to make sure you're getting what you're looking for. So do you have anything that you want to know about, like in depth? Everybody's like, you're not used to being asked what you want, are you? Okay, so if you have any questions or you have any suggestions, we have the magical suggestion box on the website. Go in there and write it. Hey, I took fairies, bringing fairies in, and I'm going to take the second one. This is something I'd like to learn. I'm open to that. Okay, please tell me that. So this is going to go out and replay to you guys privately. This will not go to the YouTube, so you'll have it for your files. You have the PDFs. Most of you got the Taurus PDF with it. I think there was one person that came back to me. It couldn't go to her because it was too large. I'm going to send out a protection PDF probably in a couple days for you guys. Just some things you can put together yourself. If you're getting my D-stash kit, you will get a protection pouch in that with it. Because I have a whole bunch of little sachets I was going to make and do here anyway. So I thank you guys for your time tonight. Happy Mother's Day. Thanks for joining me. And if you need anything else, reach out. There's lots of stuff going on the website. I'm going to do a taste of fucking Feral Goddess tomorrow night because I have all my kids coming for dinner and I have to go cook dinner. Happy Mother's Day. That's okay. To have them all at one table, I'll cook. So thank you guys for coming tonight and I'll see you all soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.